Okay, friends, as promised, here is your It's Giving Mystical podcast for the month of June. We're going back to the long form, back to our roots, back to the original vibe of like, what's the tarot card that runs this energy? What's the numerology of this month? What else is happening? How does the year numerology interact with this month numerology? What does it mean for the energy we're going to be moving through? What does it mean for the challenges, the lessons, the medicine, the magic of this month ahead? I'm going to talk about the Lovers card today. I'm going to talk about the number 6. And we're also going to bring in the energy of the devil, which is so interesting because the Lovers and the devil card in tarot are deeply threaded together, deeply connected. And the way that the Hermit, because 0 through 9 is so important in numerology, is the base of all things in numerology. This 9-year keeps bringing us along the line. So in the major arcana and tarot, we usually divide it into 3 lines, and there's important narratives happening in each of the vertical lines. And the Lovers and the devil are part of that story, a very important part of that story. So it's really interesting that the 9-year, the Hermit year, when we add it to the 6, the Lovers card is going to bring us to the devil, because that's a really powerful, important story in the tarot. And it's going to be playing out this month. It's going to be playing out in our lives this month, in our like physical physiology, in our energy fields. And I'll be curious to see what that does for you, for me, our lives. I've also pulled supporting cards from a bunch of different oracle decks because I want to talk about the major chords, and then I want to talk about what else is around. And then at the end, I guess I'll probably pull a card for every astrological sign, because why not? Because why not? So take a deep breath wherever you are. Allow yourself a full exhale. Land here, whether you're walking and listening to me, driving and listening to me before you fall asleep at night, wherever you are in the world. Just notice, just be there for a moment. Be fully there. Be with me on this mystical little journey through the 6 energy, through the Lovers card. Be with me, but also be where you are. Let's see what awakens. Let's see what your body's response to this energy is, to this podcast is. And let's see kind of what comes alive in the space around you as you hear my voice, as we dance together for these few moments. Numerologically, 6 is a beautiful number. It is literally the card of beauty. It's the card of harmony. It's the card of like rhythm and things that are pleasing. So pleasure, love, connection, relationships, relating, all happen in the energy of a 6. In numerology, we say that the Trinity is perfection. In tarot, we say the 3 is perfection. 3 is the Empress. 3 is there is me and there is the world, and together we create something so unique and so precious. Everything, every idea, every poem, every song, every tree, every seed, every flower, every star in the sky is birthed. All of these things are birthed. They all come from the energy of the 3, the energy of the perfection. And the 6 takes a second Trinity on top of that. That takes my perfection and it layers it with your perfection. And what are we going to create together? And how are we going to relate to each other? And what pleases us? And what creates beauty for us? And how do we share all of this life that's bursting from our soul, our spirit, our minds, our hearts? How do we share that? How do we make form of that? And that all is inherent in the 6 energy. The card is the Lovers. People like the Lovers card. People see the Lovers card come up and they say, I'm gonna get a new boyfriend, I'm gonna get a new girlfriend, I'm gonna fall in love. And yes, because that's a core yearning, right? We all want to be connected. We all want union, and the Lovers card is the card of union. It's the one that reaches at that 6. So there's my Trinity and there's your Trinity, and we want to come together. We want to make something together. We want to feel each other, feel life through each other. So the 6 energy brings us to the Lovers card, which is so important in terms of relating and connecting and union. But at its core, the Lovers card is the card of choice. So when the Lovers card comes up, it's saying to us, what are you choosing? It's asking you what you love, what you value, what you want, what you desire, what motivates you, and then what are you choosing to do about that? How are you choosing to honor or not that energy in your life, that those values, those desires? How alive are they? How clean, how clear are they? That's all happening in the Lovers card. So when the Lovers card comes up, yes, you may fall in love, but definitely what will happen is you will have to make a choice. And we bring that to June, right? We bring that to the energy of Gemini. Gemini is like one of the major energies that's with us, one of the major astrological energies that's with us in June. And Gemini is the twins, right? 2. And that's the Lovers card. And it's the card of Gemini. And it's the card of choice. And it's the card of you and me. And it's the card of relating. And it's the card of union. And it's the card of merging. So when we're in Lovers energy, we are looking around and we are noticing what pleases us. We're noticing what turns us on. We're noticing what we value, what speaks to harmony in our system, what speaks to beauty in our system, and then how are we moving towards that? Are the choices we're making, the connections, the things that we're merging with, do they feel like they're in alignment with what we really want? So in the Lovers Month, you're just going to be faced with that question. What do you value? What do you want? What matters to you? Do you feel like satisfied and fulfilled with the choices you're making? And then because of the 9-year, we're going to layer on top of that the Devil card, because 9 and 6 is 15. And then 15, 1 plus 5 reduces to 6. So we have the 15 of the Devil. But really what we have is we have 6 like singing 2 different notes to us this month. So the 6 energy, this desire for harmony, this desire for beauty, this desire for value, this desire for truth and clarity and like rightness. So harmony meaning like integrity, rightness, like this feels true and right and beautiful and good. That's going to be like a double dose of that. So often it could be like, well, we have the Lovers card, but we also have the Sun, or we also have Justice, or we also have Death, or there could be so many different other cards that float around depending on the numerology of the year. But because of the 9, we're getting this double dose of 6 energy. Just like last month, we had a double dose of 5 energy. So there's just an intensification of that, like a extra strong desire for that, extra strong river current moving in that direction. And the Lovers and the Devil and the Tarot are very interesting cards because they're the only major arcana cards with multiple figures on them. And they are mirror images of each other, right? So we have the angel Raphael here and we have the horned god here. We have the archangel and we have maybe the devil, if that language speaks to you. That's what the card's calling it. We also have the Lovers, more than one, and the Devil. So in this card of the Trinity, the 2 are the things being called out, the Lovers, or maybe even the 3. There's more than one lover in this card. And with the Devil, there's just the two people, but really who we're focused on is that guy. We're really focused on the Devil. And both of these cards are interested in union. Both of these cards are interested in choice. Both of these cards are interested in love. Both of these cards are interested in eros. So like romantic love, like movement, desire, desirous love. And something that's really important, and when you look at these cards, you might see it right away or you might not, is the gaze. So one of like the big lessons of the Lovers card is that the masculine energy is gazing at the feminine energy, and the feminine energy is gazing at spirit or gazing at God or gazing at the angels. And why that's important is because, yes, this depicts me and you, but it also depicts the parts of me. It also depicts my masculine, my feminine, and my godlikeness, my connection to spirit. And there is an idea here of the order of things. And it makes sense because if you break down the masculine essence of me, what you would say is you would say that I am consciousness, right? The I am, the stillness, the steadiness, the vertical line of this is eternal, this is still, is witnessing the feminine of me, which is everything else, right? My emotions, my thoughts, my body, my everything that's in movement and flux and flow. And so one of the things you're working on when you're working on taking care of yourself, integration, like self-love, is making sure that the witness inside of you is like good and healthy and sacred in its observation and its holding of your feminine, holding of everything about you that's in motion. So you have the stillness that says, I love you as you are. You are worthy, you are wanted, you are loved. That's the internal dialogue that instead of shaming me for my messiness, my craziness, my constant motion, says to me, I'm with you and it makes sense and I've got you and I see you and I love you. That is my masculine internally. And my feminine internally is doing all the things she's doing. And she's doing lovely things sometimes, and she's doing wild things sometimes. But she is fed not from being witnessed, although that feels good. She is fed by her connection to source. Right? She is rooted into something bigger than her. She is connected to the cosmos. She is feeling all of the layers of life and movement that exist in the universe. So it's like that's what she's interested in. She's gazing towards God. She's gazing towards the sacred. She's gazing towards the universe, to the world. And the masculine energy is gazing to her. And so there's this like interesting feedback loop. And you can take that as an internal conversation, like a parts conversation, or you can take that as a relating conversation, like a relationship. You want to be seen by your beloved, and you want to be seen in your freedom, in your wildness, in your truth, in your godliness. And so it is about men and women, but it's so much, that's like such a reductive way to say it. It's really about what's happening in a dynamic of Eros and a dynamic of the beloved, is that there's the willingness to witness someone in their fullness and to witness them without attachment, to witness them without needing them to be different or needing them to perform or needing them to be perfect or needing them to be predictable, like just to the true unconditional love of I see you and I am in awe of you as a being in the world. And I love you so much that I let you be free. I let your focus not be back on me. It becomes more of like a Two of Cups energy, which is beautiful. But again, it's like a smaller slice of this. The Lover's energy is I look to you, I celebrate you, and I let you be free. Like I let you be who you are. I let you feel connected to God. I let you be in your own process, in your own world, in your own experience of the world, in your own Trinity, without needing it to be different. Like that's enough. And when you find someone you can do that with, I imagine that would be the best. This idea of I am full in myself. I am a Trinity in myself, right? I have my healthy masculine. I have my healthy feminine. I have my connection to God in all things. And then I meet you and you have the same. And then what does it mean to both love and be loved and be free and allow freedom? I remember when I first heard David Deida speak about the masculine desire for freedom. He would talk about how the masculine in all of us just craves freedom in the deepest way. Like that is the ultimate desire, to get free. So if I can have enough time, enough money, enough space, then I will be free. And that's the great masculine dilemma. Like to come to the point where you realize there will never be enough to satisfy your ache for freedom. It's such a basic existential ache. And then he would talk about the feminine ache being for union. Like if I was just loved more and seen more and touched more and spoiled more, then I would feel love. And he talks about how that's also like this existential ache. And no matter how perfect your partner, how perfect your practice, you're always going to want more. And it's like the size of these aches, the size of these desires is just wildly enormous. And what I remember thinking, they talked about it like it was the spectrum, right? Like the masculine was pulling towards freedom and the feminine was pulling towards union. And in many ways, like modern relational like conversation dialogue is that, right? There's somebody who needs more space and freedom, and there's somebody who needs more union and connection, and you're an avoidant and you're anxiously attached. And we kind of set it up in this like kind of this tug of war. Like we're both pulling in opposite directions, desperately trying to get our needs met, desperately trying to get these existential needs met that are like unmeetable needs, and yet they drive so much of our behavior. And I remember thinking in my mind, that's wrong. That's not like, that's what we're doing, is that pull, that tug of war. But what we should realize is that if I follow freedom all the way around, like I follow freedom all the way to the end of the road, what I'm going to find is like God. What I'm going to find is everything, is union, right? And if I follow that desire for union all the way around, what I'm going to find is freedom, like nothingness, like everything, like God. Like the freedom is this sense of there's nothing, like there's no burden. And the union is there's no separation. But what I feel and I felt in my own practice and in my own work is like, no, we're both trying to get to this place of calm. And some of us call that connection, union, fullness. And some of us call that emptiness or space or no burden. But we're both trying to get to the same place. Like that's my belief, is that it's never been a spectrum. It's always been a circle. And we're just trying to get back to this place where we're allowed to be free and we're also allowed to be engulfed, like both and at the same time. So I say all of that because that's kind of what's happening in this card. The gazes are so important because they're depicting that. They're depicting that union was never really about me looking you in the eye. Union was about, am I allowed to be free and be me and be loved for that? And am I allowed to love you in a safe way or in a way that feels good and also allow you to be totally free? What would that be like? So that's all happening. And that's like this idealized idea around Eros, like my desire to love and be consumed, but also to be liberated and to let go, like all at the same time. And in Jungian psychology, when you study the archetypes, like the 4 core archetypes, in his mind, it was masculine based, but it was the lover, in opposition, the lover and the warrior. Again, everyone loves to, the men love to put these things in opposition. Men, lover on either side. And then king, magician on either side. So the vertical pole was magician, king, and the horizontal pole was lover, warrior. And Jungian analyst or Jungian archetypal investigation would say the warrior is the movement towards individuation. I am alone and I am enough and I can protect my boundaries and I am like within myself and I am an autonomous being. And the lover is the one that's like, there's no boundaries, there's no borders. I just want to like get in it with you. I want to dissolve all the boundaries. And what I found, I think this is interesting, when I really was deep in this, in the Jungian perspective, was during my time studying hypnosis. And what I found, the lover, I was like, yes, sign me up. Like I'm the lover. Like I want to see and be seen and I want to dissolve the boundaries and I want to have that whole experience. And I felt like the warrior was like, I had my own issues with codependency and boundaries and all of that. But so the warrior was kind of foreign to me. I didn't know that I had a right to be independent in my own being. And that's been such a journey for me and such a lovely thing to know now, that I can trust myself, that I am trustable, that I am safe and like in some ways completely autonomous. That feels really good to me now. But at the time when I was studying that, I didn't. It felt very foreign. And I remember doing an exercise with one of the women I was training with, and we had to put on our warrior, like we had to step fully into our warrior energy. And then we were eye gazing with each other. So we stepped fully into our warrior. She stepped fully into her warrior. And then we sat in just silence together. And I remember thinking, I've never felt more connected, more safely connected to another like woman than I did knowing she was in her warrior. Because what it felt like was, I can trust you there. Like I can trust you. You are safe in your own skin. You are an autonomous being. You know what you're fighting for, and you're standing next to me. You're standing by my side. There's something about that becomes so trustable, that feels so good, that feels almost as good as the merging of the lover. So again, don't let them trick you that this is like you're going towards the lover or you're going towards the warrior. I believe that if we go far enough around, we come back to each other. I just don't believe in this model of these like linear spectrums. I just doesn't land in my experience or what I've seen or what I've witnessed or what I've embodied. When the warrior, when you're fully, the only way you can actually be in union with someone is when you understand that you had the choice to break down those boundaries. You had the choice to stand by their side. So all of that comes up in this conversation as well. And I say that to you because the lover is going to that's going to come up when the lover's card comes up. It's going to come up like, where is the boundary line? It's going to come up. How much authority or agency do you have when it comes to your boundaries? Like, are they safe and good and flexible and alive? Like, are your boundaries vital? Like, can you say, oh, I know how to be here alone, and I also know how to be with you? And what will come up when the Lovers card comes up, and what will come up in June, is there will be this conversation around where is that not clean? And especially when we talk about the Devil card being overlaid in this month. So the Devil card is the same thing. It's interested in Eros, right? What did I want? What do I desire? And the horned god brings us out of this air element of the angel into the earth element of the horned god. What does my body want? What am I compelled towards? What am I in service to? Right? What have I made promises? What have I bound myself to? What am I chained to? And why this is important is because we fall in love. We fall in love in this ideal way, but then our body experiences has its own kind of conversation with other bodies, has its own medicine it's trying to work out, its own healing it's trying to work out. And when we move towards someone in love, there is that inevitable transition of this ideal into the reality, into the flawed humanity of being in union, being in connection. And again, if we want to bring this into a parts mentality, that's happening in us. It's happening in me, right? It's happening when I realize there's a part of me that is operating out of old patterns, or a part of me that's operating in shadow, a part of me that's not on the same trajectory as my heart, not on the same trajectory as Eros. It wants me to do something differently. And so it's hijacking my behavior, or it's making me run a narrative that maybe doesn't feel true or even helpful. So there's the parts conversation. There's the toxic masculine as it exists in me. There's the toxic feminine as it exists in me. I would say, like, the ways I've bound myself to some story or some idea of truth that may or may not be true. But it goes back to what I was saying last week when I watched those couples in the couples therapy show, and they're like, well, there's only one way to interpret that. And when Orla's always like, no, there's a million ways to interpret everything all of the time. You're choosing that narrative, you're choosing that interpretation because it helps you gather evidence for your beliefs, but that doesn't make it true. It just means that's the thing you're in service to. That's the thing you serve more than you serve truth, more than you serve love, more than maybe you serve the relationship. And we've all had that experience, right? You love someone, whether it's your children, your friends, a lover, a partner, a parent, like, you love them. But how often are you moving because that's what love wants you to do versus moving because of whatever you've put in the driver's seat, whatever you've put as the thing that must be served, the relationship, the way the relationship looks, the way the relationship is supposed to be, what it's been in the past, what you need from it, whether you're getting what you need from it, all the weird ways you figure out how to get what you need without actually asking for it, in ways that actually harm you, harm others, harm the relationship. So it's interesting to think about. And this is a question that comes up when people say to me, do I stay or go? Or how do I make these kind of important decisions in my relationship? What does love want? And that goes back to the work I did in kind of Neo-Tantra with David Data and John Wineland and Kendra Kunov. That was a question that would come up. Well, like, what does love want in the moment? That's what the Lovers asks us. But the Devil is like, well, what do I want? What do I need? And what I need is not always vibrating to the highest octave of what love wants or what the world needs or what's alive. And you can see that an example of that is, speaking the truth, right? Like, sometimes we sugarcoat the truth or say the easier thing because it's hard. It's hard to serve love. It's hard to serve truth. Sometimes it's easier to serve the comfort or the past or the perceived safety or stability of the thing, right? Like, if I don't rock the boat, so I'd rather not rock the boat than say what's true. Well, if you ask the question, what does love want? Love says there's nothing to do but say what's true. And the Devil will know, I'm bound to this relationship. I'm dependent on it for this reason, or it needs to look this specific way for some reason. And so I'm going to keep myself bound in the confines of the box we've built that we call this relationship. So, okay, as you can tell, relationships are going to be a big deal this month. But I want you to really think about relationships as a tool for healing, relationships as a mirror, as a reflective point, as a choice point, as an inflection point, and how many times a day you get to choose. How many times a day you get to choose whether to say what's true, even if it's uncomfortable? How many times a day do you get to be present with someone and stop and pause and feel them beyond, to either step outside of your own story and feel them, or come back to you and check in with you before you go over to what's going on with them. So this is like wherever you are on the spectrum of like codependency and attachment. So like whatever your work is there. But there's a sense of like what's alive in this moment versus what I think is supposed to be alive, what has been alive, what I need in this moment versus like what is the larger need. I'm focused so much on relationships right now in this conversation because it's like if we have the lovers alone, that's on the table. And if we have the devil alone, that's on the table. We have the lovers and the devil, that's taking up a big part of the table. So a big part of the table is my heart, what it desires, what it wants, my desire for union, my desire for connection, and the purity of that versus the distortion of that. And the actual live quality of that versus the habits and bindings that exist around that. So just to kind of step over to the devil card for a moment, I don't think this is a card to fear, although as much as people love the lover's card, they fear the devil card. You're in service to something. Like just saying that out loud, acknowledging that can be a really big deal for some people. And I always say, like, you're in service to your body, if nothing else. If you never wanted to get into a relationship with anyone ever again, and you just want to live by yourself in the woods and never talk to another human, you are in relationship to your body and you are in relationship with the world. Like you are never not in relationship. And you are bound to those things. It's part of being incarnate. It's part of the earthly experience. You are bound to those things. So if you don't drink and rest and eat and move, you can't be here. Like your body will deteriorate. There's something about understanding that I'm in service to my body. I'm bound to so many things. There's nothing wrong with being of devotion, of service, to be bound to something. It's part of the human thing that we're working out and figuring out. Where the devil card becomes painful is when you're unconscious of those bindings. So it can be easy to say, well, I'm bound to my body, okay. And then are you treating your body with love and devotion and respect? Question that will come up this month. When you are in relationship, I love this person. Yeah, and you are bound to them in some way. Are you conscious of that? Do you say, I choose this? It comes back to that conversation of I have to versus I get to. I have to drive my children to school every day, but I also get to drive my children to school every day, right? I get to go to the grocery store and pick out healthy food for them and make dinner. Do I feel tired sometimes? For sure. Is that a choice I'm making every day? Yes. It's a choice to show up for them. And those can be easy choices. But then what about when my teenage daughters make choices that I don't agree with? And then I have to have that negotiation. Okay, well, I'm bound to them. I've chose to be in devotion to them. There are certain parameters, a certain box I've built that says I will be in devotion as long as X, Y, and Z are also happening. And when those things aren't happening, what do I do with that information? Do I pull on the chain, right? Do I exert power and control? Do I remind them of the ways that they're bound to me? Or do I pause for a moment and do I say, okay, look, they're bound to me as well. Let's like think about this. Let's think about what's happening here. And then let's ask the question, what does love want? Versus defaulting to, well, this is the power dynamic at play. Let me push those levers and buttons. Like, let me do what I need to do to get things back into stasis. Let me do what I need to do to be comfortable again, to make sure we're playing by the rules again. The devil card is always going to be interested in what are the rules of engagement? What are the rules of the game? What's my share? What's your share, right? What do you have to do for me? And what am I willing to do for you? And again, like that's just human nature. That's the body, that's the world, that's relationships. Where the devil comes in is when we begin to think that our rules of the game are the only rules, right? Where we are more concerned with holding on to the power, holding on to the relationship, holding on to the games, the definitions of what is, more than we are interested in what is alive and what is of love and what is of truth. And that's a high order. It's like a big ask to say, I'm going to live wide enough, clear enough, present enough, resourced enough to be able to even see what is. The Devil card is always saying to you, you are bound to things and people and relationships and the world. How clear are you on that? How integrated are you around that? And how alive are those things? Like, where have you fallen into habit? Where have you fallen into routine around things that maybe aren't actually serving you? What promises did you make in certain relationships? What vows did you make to yourself or to others that have become stale or dry or dusty? Where did the vows need to be remade or retold or revivified? Like, where does that need to happen? And it's just a matter of becoming aware of the bindings and checking them, like checking them over. Where are they chafing? Where do they feel too heavy? Where do they feel just right? And that's part of the conversation that always comes up with the Devil. And then the other thing, the Devil, it's like you are taking things way too seriously. The Lovers and the Devil generally are cards that we take very seriously. We take it very seriously that we need to be in love, that we need to be seen, that we need to be worshipped and adored and connected and in union. And we take it very, very seriously when someone pulls on the chains in a way that doesn't feel good. We take it very seriously when someone disrespects us or perceivingly breaks the rules of the game. So all of that energy gets to this, like something that we want so badly, all of a sudden becomes something that we hold so heavily. And that's here too, right? That conversation between the Lovers and the Devil. Okay, so where does that bring us for June of 2025? For June of 2025, you are going to be interested in your relationships. You're going to be interested in the choices you've made and the choices you continue to make around your relationships. You're going to be interested in these conversations you're having either internally amongst your parts or externally in relationships. And it's not just romantic relationships, so really do expand that. This is anyone that you're intimately involved in, anyone where the relationship matters, right? Where there's a connection that feeds you or that you feed into, that's going to be here. It's going to kind of come up and you're going to notice where you're chafing. You're going to notice where those chains have gotten heavy. You might also have moments where you notice yourself telling the story because you've just been telling the story for so long, calling someone this or assuming they're going to do this because you've just assumed it so long. And so the conversation in June is like, can you look with fresh eyes? Can you connect to what you value? Can you connect to your desires and what you want? And then can you make choices that actually speak to those? It's also going to ask you to probably do some integration work. There's probably some shadow that's going to come up around your relationships this month. There's probably going to be some conversations around, I chose that a long time ago. Do I still choose that? There's going to be some conversations around, this is who we were when we entered this covenant together, this relationship, this dynamic, this vow together, and that's not who we are anymore. So what God are you serving in your relationships? Again, with yourself, with not just romantically, but like with your family, with your friends. What is the thing that we're in devotion to? Are we in devotion to each other's freedom and each other's exploration and each other's growth and each other's evolution? Or are we more heavily focused on keeping things the same, living up to the rules of the game that we set in motion however long ago we set those rules in motion, living up to the rules that society says we're supposed to play in all of these? And you really want to always come back to you. Like, notice, like I said in the beginning, that warrior conversation. Notice where you stand on the field and how truly you stand as yourself, how comfortably you stand with yourself. So are you really being honest about what you value, what you need, what you want? And where are you offloading that responsibility elsewhere? Where are you asking someone else to move in a way that allows you to stay comfortable? Like, where are you sacrificing someone else's freedom for your own comfort? And again, doesn't mean we have to agree with the choices other people make, but what does it do to judge that? Like, what does it do to make that about us versus saying, I don't like this, and so what will I do? What do I need to do now to be either in a new kind of relationship with you, or to set boundaries in that relationship, or to soften in places where I've become too rigid? So it's a big ask. It's a big ask in June to take a lot of responsibility for yourself, but take a lot of responsibility for the part you play in your relationships. There's that thing that you hear about in therapeutic circles of, I'm going to take 100% responsibility for this relationship, right? So a relationship isn't 50-50. It's ideally, both parties taking 100% of responsibility. You have so much power in the dynamic, and we give that away. Or we say, well, if they do X, Y, Z, then I can do, A, B, C. And that's a lie you tell yourself, because in truth, you can do A, B, C if that's what you need to do. And then you can trust them to do what they need to do, ideally, right? If we both have those fully developed warriors, those fully developed integrated systems of my divine masculine, my divine feminine, my connection to God. If I have that within me, if I am a universe in of myself, then I can take the information of what's changing and I can be okay with that. I can work with that. Might it hurt me? Yes. Might it not be my preference? Of course. But that doesn't mean I can't work with it. You just want to really notice where you're kind of tugging on the chains of other relationships. And even as I'm saying this to you, I'm thinking of something I've been doing with my daughter recently. I've been so frustrated with this, and I'm realizing as I say this to you guys, yeah, but where's my responsibility in this? Where am I expecting things to stay the same in a dynamic that is never going to be the same, that is like rich and chaotic and lovely and part of watching a young woman grow up, right? And part of being a woman myself on this first stage of the journey into mothering a teenage girl. So it doesn't have to be a romantic relationship, although that probably will come up as well. The desire for union, the desire for a connection that is eros-based. So not just love as a larger concept, but particularly romantic love, particularly sexual love. Where is this all coming up? Where are you standing? Where are you? Like, if you see these two cards side by side, who do you identify with? Do some direct revelation around that card. Sit with that card and engage with it. Engage with the devil as much as you want to engage with the angel Gabriel, because he's not the devil. He's the horned god, right? He's the god of temptation and the god of the body and the god of earthly pleasure. We all have that. We all want that. We all are driven by the desires of our bodies, connected to the desires of our bodies, ideally. And those are gifts that we're given in this incarnation. So what are you doing with that energy? Where are you standing with that show? So yeah, it's a lot around choice, a lot around love, a lot around union, a lot around freedom, a lot around the way those things are ideally moving together, but can also be in conflict. And at the end of the day, when the lovers and the devil are on the table together, it's a huge invitation to integrate. It's a huge invitation to up-level, to take these ideals and to take this lived experience and to not turn away from either one. To allow yourself to be imperfect and messy and bound and chained and confused and still worthy of love and still worthy of union and still right in your desire, still right in what you value, still like able to build a life based on what you desire and value. So the last thing I want to say about the devil card is that the devil looks right at you, and the two figures in the card, instead of looking at each other or at the devil, are kind of like looking off into space. Like one's looking one way, the other's looking the other way. There's kind of this energy of dazed and confused. There's energy of ambivalence here. And that might be part of your process this month. It might be that you see things about yourself you didn't expect to see, or it might be there's a part of you that feels kind of ambivalent or confused or lost or hopeless, or like, I don't know what this means. I don't know how to take what I'm feeling and desiring and move it out into the world. That's okay. That's part of what this cycle, this process, this month will do for you. It will help you kind of reconnect wherever you're feeling dazed, confused, and lost with this ideal. So the lived experience, the devil card, with the ideal desire, the lover's card, they're meeting each other. They're overlapping each other. The two trinities are meeting in that. The two sixes are meeting in that. And there's something about it that kind of forces a shift in perspective. Hangman energy 12 forces a shift in perspective, says to you, whether you realize it or not, you're going to begin to see this differently. And so that's okay. So you don't need to force anything in a lover's month. Like I said, the Gemini month will offer you the crossroads. It will offer you the duality. It will offer you the choice. And then you just keep choosing. You just kind of stay still until you know, and then you move in that direction, and then you know again, and then you move in that direction. So, conversations around your body, conversations around your desire, conversations around your values, conversations around your connections, conversations about the rules you're playing by and where they no longer fit are all going to be here. And there's going to be moments where maybe you feel really turned on and lit up. And there's going to be moments where you feel kind of lost and confused and disillusioned. And none of it's going to stay the same. I will say that. These two cards are energy and motion. There's no stuckness here. Individually, the Devil card can offer an energy of stuckness, but with the Lovers card, it's more of an invitation to up-level and more of an invitation to clarify, to integrate, and to evolve into the next phase of your being, the next phase of your relating. It's kind of cool. And then in terms of companion cards, everything I pulled speaks to that. So integrity, swan energy, which is really the energy of beauty. Again, there's a lot of cards around beauty, radiance, harmony. St. John's wort, which is also about radiance. Lady of the Lotus born. So embodiment is the deepest bliss. My body was made for enlightenment. And then the energy of the rebel. So challenging authority to effect social change, rejects spiritual systems that do not serve inner needs. So just know this month that there's a part of you that's kind of fighting to be free, to be seen, to be valued, to be expressed. And something about your relational dynamics up until this point haven't allowed that. And that desire is clean and clear and like wants to make something beautiful. And it's kind of fighting for breath, and it's fighting for incarnation, embodiment. And so cool, like allow that to be true. Maybe it'll be a little uncomfortable, but there's something kind of like fighting to be seen, valued, and honored and expressed. And if your current dynamics aren't going to allow that, there might be some conflict, but you'll survive it, and you'll survive it and thrive because of it. Like it's not happening just to disrupt the status quo. It's happening because some essential part of you hasn't been expressed and now is ready to be expressed. And like, aho, celebrate that. There is going to be always, when these cards come up, probably some tension between independence and codependency, or independence and union. There's just going to be some tension between the work I have to do that's mine and the way that the work I have to do impacts you. And so there's just going to be this little bit of this kind of very natural tension between the lover and the warrior, the one that wants to go out on his own and the one that wants to be in union. And there's just going to be some tension there, whether that's internal or out in the world in your relationships. But it's okay. Like the work is to come back to your own dynamic, your own parts work, to come back to your divine masculine, to come back to your divine feminine. Notice what they need. Notice what needs to be expressed there. Come back to your connection to your body, like the sacred quality of your body's connection to God. Feel all of those things, like stay in this universe, in this cosmos, in this trinity. And then once that feels clear, bring it to the other trinities, bring it to the other, points of harmony and beauty in your life, other like beings in your life, and help with them build something harmonious and beautiful with everyone's desires. There's something a little bit idealistic about this, but like kind of crunchy. Like might be a little crunchy as we kind of move from this into a fuller expression. Ideally, relationships that allow more freedom, allow more expression for each member of the community, each member of the relationship. Very focused on one-on-one stuff. So while this might impact your community, this is really about one-on-one relating. Interesting. So in summary, you want to really think this month about where you're choosing, and choose from love, and just notice where you're choosing from love versus choosing from fear. And may you be courageous and brave enough to move and choose according to love, not move and choose according to fear or according to what the rules that you've set in motion for that relationship to be viable. There's a way to move where you're choosing with love and you're free from fear, and that's what you're striving for in the month ahead. Okay, let's pull some cards. For each of the zodiac signs, I will pull a Mother Peace Tarot card, and I will pull a Animal Spirit card, and we'll see what the messages are for each of the zodiacs. My friends, for Gemini, we have the Shaman of Swords, so the King of Swords, and Canary Spirit. Sing your own song. That's a pretty beautiful message. The Shaman of Swords is the one who takes the world and translate it into language. They're the ones that can abracadabra, I speak and I create. So the Shaman of Swords has the ability to literally create new worlds with their language, with their thoughts. And Canary Spirit is sing your own song. So really encourage this month to speak your truth, to recognize that in this relational dynamic that we're talking about, saying what's true, we often don't say what's true because we're like, well, they're going to say this or they're going to think this. If you can offer your truth from a place that is of love and of a grounded presence, you might be amazed at what it invokes, inspires in another. The truth is the truth for a reason, and love is love for a reason, and it doesn't want to punish, it wants to liberate. And so there's this idea of being really clear in your language, being clear in your truth, and allowing that to be a song that transforms the world maybe more easily, more beautifully than you can imagine. All right, Cancer, we have the Two of Swords and we have Sandpiper Spirit, be playful. So the Two of Swords is the horns of a dilemma, being unsure which way to go, left to right, yes or no, black or white. And the decision can feel heavy. It can weigh on you. Like, oh, I can't do this until I decide this. And Sandpiper Spirit reminds us that we often will use a decision as a way to disappear from the present moment. So we have the sense of well, I have to decide. Should I stay or should I go? Should I tell them this or should I tell them that? And it's often like we're 7 steps ahead. Like often the thing right in front of us is not to make that decision. The thing right in front of us is to honor what the next movement is, knowing it will take us down the right road. It will take us to the right decision. So Sandpiper Spirit with Two of Swords says that you're taking this decision way too heavily. You're letting it sit way too heavily on your shoulders. And if you can just loosen up and hold it a little more lightly, be a little more, bring some air, some playfulness, some fun, some wonder, some curiosity into it, and then just do the next thing, or maybe do something completely different altogether, or maybe bring some ritual or ceremony or magic to it, knowing that the world is alive. The decision needs to get made. It will get made. You don't always need to be the one that kind of forces it to happen. And when we think that, we can it can get really heavy, especially when it's a decision that we're not ready to make. We can kind of spend so much time spinning our wheels and really just wasting energy when that's not even really the thing that life is asking of us. It's a way to kind of step out of the present moment by being well, if I decide this, then I can be at ease. It's first put yourself at ease, and then I promise you the decision will come. Okay, Leo, we have the Ace of Swords and Squirrel Spirit, believe in yourself. Ace of Swords is beautiful. Ace of Swords is God, the universe source, being here is a new idea. Here is a poem. Here is an inspiration. Here is a new way to express yourself. Here's a new language. Here's something you thought you would never be able to express, but here you go. So that could mean you start watercoloring. It could mean you start forest bathing. It could mean you start speaking to the trees. It could mean you learn Italian. It could mean so many different things, but there's this sense of I have a new way to express myself, and that feels really good. And Squirrel Spirit saying believe in yourself is it's valid. Whatever the thing is, it's kind of turning you on, catching your attention, lighting you up, making you curious, wanting to I want to learn how to talk that way. I want to learn how to speak that way. Squirrel Spirit's yes and yes and yes. So in terms of, again, this relational dynamic that we're so rich in June, I want you to think about this idea that you, again, if you're only using the same tools, if you're trying to get the argument made with the same words over and over again and someone can't hear you, then what are you even doing? Sometimes you need to come up with a new language. Sometimes you need to think about a new way, find a new way to express yourself. And you might be surprised at what that shakes up in the dynamic. Just the ability to access new language, to access a new framework might surprise you in what it unlocks. Okay, what do we have? Cancer, Leo, Virgo, the 5 of Cups, and Turtle Spirit. Slow and steady wins the race. Okay, 5 of Cups, listen, man. No sugarcoating it. That is difficult energy. It's the energy of grief. And there's something about Turtle Spirit that's it takes time. Grief takes the time it takes. So whatever you are sad about or mourning, or your heart just feels kind of heavy about this, and it could be based on what we just said about the Devil and the Lovers, it could partially be that there's some truth in you that needs to be expressed, or there's some belief that if you express this truth, that it will change the game. It will change the rules of a game in a way that you don't want, that you are afraid of. And the turtle spirit kind of says, take your time with this. Take your time. As my teacher Cass used to say, like, grief is an alchemical experience. Grief has an agenda. It's trying to get you to transform and understand and become something different than you were before the grief entered your life. That's hard, but it's also true. And there's something quite beautiful about it, actually. I say that as someone who's held and holds a lot of grief in my life, has held a lot of grief in my time here. And there's a softening that happens, a malleability that comes to you through the grief. The only way I could describe it is like it's a deep exhale into the truth of what is. And there's something about the turtle spirit that just says, like, allow yourself the big exhales, allow yourself the slow moments, allow yourself the tears if that's what needs to come. And there's a really strong energy here of a river. Like, allow the river to carry you a little bit and see what happens, when you kind of get to the end of this month. I would really use this month as a time to coast a little bit in some ways in terms of this relational process, and allow things to get unearthed that need to get unearthed, and allow them to move through you the way they need to move through you. And know that on the other side of it, you are going to feel different. You will be a different person. And it's okay for that to require you to make different choices. And that's not to scare you, that's to give you permission to just be for a moment without having to understand exactly what's happening. Sit in the mystery of it this month, Virgo. It's taking you somewhere. There's no movement lost here, no wasted time here. Libra, we have the Chariot and Turkey spirit. So Turkey spirit, give with gratitude and grace. So Libra, the Chariot is really about our willpower, our solar energy, our masculine desire, our masculine purpose. And the Turkey spirit is really about generosity and grace. There's something here about the maturing that happens when you realize that your solar energy, your movements, your desire, your purpose is really thin if it's not, especially when we're talking about masculine purpose, it's really thin if it's not in service to something larger than you, if it's not acting as kind of a protective, world creating energy. So when you want from this place, when you move from this place of the solar plexus of the Chariot, and you move that way just because you think you're going to achieve something, that's possible, but it has like this thinness to it. When you move because you are in devotion to something larger than you, you are protecting something outside of just yourself, there's something that you value that is bigger than you, that's a different kind of masculine movement in the world. It's a different kind of purpose-driven leadership in the world. And the Turkey kind of says maybe that's something you're stepping into. So again, when we come back to this idea of relating, there might be a call for you around this idea of your values shifting and what kind of relating you want to do. It's almost like if you're on a spectrum between the devil and the lovers, you're kind of leaning into this lover's energy of like, what do I value? What does matter to me? What am I actually trying to understand or achieve via my relationships? And how can I get bigger and more mature and more evolved in that? And how can I give from a place of deep generosity? What this says to me is you have something to offer, you have something to give, and that's beautiful. It's like there's a plentiness to this that I hope you feel good about. I hope that you feel kind of grateful and inspired and motivated by your ability to do so. Scorpio, 5 of discs and koi fish spirit. So there's always enough. Interesting. So 5 of pentacles is kind of the card of there's not enough. There's not enough for me. There's not enough room for me. There's not enough light for me. There's not enough love for me. And koi spirit's like, that's not true. And this reminds me of what I keep saying about couples therapy. But this idea of like, you have it, whether you realize it or not, we all have it. These rules, like, well, if this, then this. And there's some rule you probably have about whether there's enough for you. Some belief you have about whether you are deserving or wanted or loved, or whether there's enough, or whether you have to kind of take scraps, take crumbs. And the koi spirit is like, let's be done with that story. Let's like evolve past that story. Let's recognize Yeah, let's really understand that the fives, the one beautiful part about the five energy, so the five of discs or five of cups, is that they are dynamic energies. So the five is actually trying to shake something up, sometimes in an uncomfortable way, but the sense of like change, conflict, freedom that comes with the fives. And the five of discs is like something is changing in the material world. Don't assume it's changing for the less. Like, don't assume it's changing and there won't be enough for you. There's something about like the change, the creation can be as life-giving as it can be, depleting or scarcity based. And partially that has to do with your perspective and what you're willing to see. So Scorpio, you might find yourself up against some old stories around worth or scarcity this month. Scarcity is so tricky because scarcity can sound like a scarcity mindset can have this like, well, if they have enough, or if they're, beautiful and there's no beauty left for me, or if they are happy, there's not enough happiness left for me. That can be kind of the obvious one. But scarcity mindset can come in really insidious, sneaky ways. And these kind of bargains we make with ourselves, like if I have this, then it's okay that I don't have that. Or if I want this, that's wanting too much. And there's something about koi that's like, you're just being silly about it now. So there might be some messaging around scarcity that comes up this month, and may it be a liberation, may it be a freedom, may it be like kind of noticing that's one of those chains, one of those bindings that you've just assumed had to be there, and watch as the world kind of reveals to you that there's another way of holding that and relating than that, and that might feel really good. Maybe hard at first, but it's going to feel good in the long run. Two of Wands and Chameleon Spirit, act as if. Okay, Two of Wands is, your ship's coming in. It's like having a sense of desire, ambition, like like really wanting something, like standing on the horizon, being like, I really hope for this. I want this. And Chameleon Spirit's like, it's yours, act as if. So if this is something you really want, instead of standing on the cliff's edge and being like, does it come? I hope it comes. The Two of Wands is like, assume it's on its way. It's that idea of like when you manifest something or wish for something, it's like, feel it deeply enough and then let it go. Like it comes back again, like relationally, where are you holding on so tight to this idea of, did I say Sagittarius? This is Sagittarius. Did I not say that? I don't know. I might have said something else. But for Sagittarius, like, believe that your desires have value. And in a relational context, just kind of noticing that you might get kind of caught up in the like holding tight, the binding of it. And partially what you're seeking, I would imagine, is something a little more free, a little more beautiful, a little more nourishing. And the Chameleon Spirit's like, you're kind of getting in your own way around that. So how can you kind of like hit it and quit it? Like, how can you kind of say like, this is what I want, and I believe I'm worthy of it, and I'm going to let it go, and I'm going to move as if it's on its way. That's like a really beautiful invitation for this month ahead. Capricorn, we have the Three of Cups and Snake Spirit. Time to heal. Okay. Heal through community. So Capricorn, this card, Three of Cups is the card of community, of connection, and time to heal with Cobra, or just Snake Spirit, is, we're talking about relationships here. This would be really have to do with like friendships and community. So this would, Aquarius, you'd be invited to kind of go a little broader than that, a little broader than just one-on-one relationships, and to become aware of the ways in which you're exiled, like the ways in which you don't believe you're part of the community, or something about your value or your desire is off. And something that comes to mind with Aquarius is actually so inherently focused on the community, so inherently focused on the larger group, on the collective. There might be some idea you have of like the one-on-one dynamics being primary. Like it's similar to when people say they find their greatest satisfaction through their friendships or through their work relationships or through, some other relationship other than their intimate relationship. There's something about that energy here, Aquarius, like being free or being healed. Yeah, like not getting so caught up in the binary and allowing there to be something more community-based, more broad, that not that you're healing from, but that you're healing the stories that say that's not allowed. You're healing the stories that say, like, you have to find your joy, your satisfaction here. You have to value this. If there's something else you value, it might come into relief this month. And there might be a kind of new permission or new sense of, I'm actually allowed to want what I want. I don't have to want what the world tells me I want. Yeah, there's something about this that is asking you to, maybe for you, Aquarius, this isn't going to be such a conversation around your intimate relationships. Maybe this month is going to be more of a conversation of how you engage with the community and where you find nourishment and where you find connection, and allowing that to maybe take a different shape and heal anything that told you it couldn't take that shape. It wasn't allowed. So Aquarius, wait, oh, sorry, that was Capricorn. I'm so confused. Capricorn, that's for you. So you take the Aquarian energy and you bring it into your field. Aquarius, okay, Capricorn, Aquarius, you guys want to listen to each other's messages. Aquarius, grasshopper spirit and the lovers. Okay, so that's actually really funny. Okay, go back and listen to this if you're skipped to Aquarius. Listen to what I just said for Capricorn. Because Capricorn really is Aquarius is interested in the larger community, but the Aquarius card here is the lovers, and the Aquarius card here is time to take a leap of faith. So the Aquarian energy actually is kind of focused on the one-on-one love relationship, and the Capricorn energy is more focused on what Aquarius is traditionally associated with, which is, I want to find my satisfaction. I want new rules around my relating. Like, I want a new way of operating. I want to put down the old stories of what I'm allowed in terms of satisfying relationships, in terms of relationship values. And then Aquarius, you are actually much more interested in the one-on-one relationships than you normally are. So there's something here about trusting your impulse and about being brave about moving towards someone. So being brave about the choice you make in, like, actually choosing, I'm going to say this selfishly, Aquarius, like choosing what you want because you want it, and not necessarily because of what it means or what it looks like or what the community says you're supposed to want. So that's interesting. So Capricorn would normally move like, I want this, and so I'm going to go for it. And Aquarius would be like, oh, I want this, but what does it mean for the larger community? And this month you guys are flip-flopped. You both could learn from each other's medicine. So it might be interesting for you to kind of explore. If you're Aquarius, explore a little bit more about Capricorn this month. And if you're Capricorn, explore a little bit more about Aquarius this month and see what you can learn from the other movements, the other energies and medicines. Pisces. 8 of Discs and Lion Spirit. Be generous of spirit. So the 8 of Discs is really the work card. So it's like it's an invitation, Pisces, to really do the work. And again, Pisces, you have a more fluid style of relating. You can kind of touch into both your own desires, but the larger desires of the world. Like, how do my desires and the desires of the world, how does my evolution and the evolution of the world, how do those things go hand in hand? You're so clear on how importantly and intrinsically connected those things are. But the 8 of Discs is really about your work. So it's about infusing everything you do with your spirit. It's like the idea of the ghosts in the machine, right? Everything you create, from the most mundane, from like the cleaning the kitchen to, the greatest work of art, your energy gets imbued into it. So Pisces really, like, becoming acutely aware of the power of your hands and the power of your work, and how much of your essence is actually like imbued in the things that you do. And be generous of spirit is like, let that be true, let that be powerful. And then in terms of a relational dynamic, look around you, like, who is creating with you? Who's at work with you? Who's like with you in the trenches in the day-to-day? There's something about giving them the benefit of the doubt. So when this comes to relating, if someone's, being a little off or just working through their own stuff, can you assume the best? Can you assume that they are trying to reach some ideal as well? Can you be curious about what it's like for them? And can you be willing to learn from them? Just notice any part of you that wants to get rigid of, like, it's supposed to be this way, they're supposed to do it this way, or if I were them, I would do it this way. And just kind of, maybe you want to soften that. Maybe you want to get curious about what else might be true if they're behaving that way. Like, why is that important to them? What is the value underneath of that? What can I learn from that? Whether you accept it into your life or not is your own business, and I trust you to have boundaries where they're appropriate. But there is something about the rigidity not serving you, and the rigidity kind of limiting your creative ability. And so, yeah, how could you get curious about what else is happening there? Aries, we have justice and giraffe spirit. See the big picture. Okay, Aries. I don't know why. When I looked at those cards, I was like, oh, Aries doesn't want to hear this. I don't know why that's what I'm thinking. Okay, I'm just going to say it, Aries. There's a part of you this month that might get stuck a little bit in victim mentality, might get stuck in a little bit of like, it's not fair. And I don't, I like feel like you're not going to like this message. But know that that's a trap too. Okay, so it's not fair. It's not supposed to be like this. They don't understand me, getting caught up in the minutia, like they did it this way and I want it this way. And like there's something about know that the victim mentality, although we all do it, is its own trap, or it's its own. You have to, like, if you're in that triangle of disempowerment, victim, perpetrator, bystander, if you're in it, you're in it. So if you're perpetrating, you're in it. If you're a victim, you're in it. If you're a bystander, you're in it. Or a rescuer, you're in it. And if you're doing any of those things, you're doing all of those things. That's like the great, nobody ever wants to hear that, but it's so true. And they even make a triangle on this card. This justice card is represented by them being in a triangle of harmony. So just notice like the rules you place on others, the judgments you place on others are actually like harming and hindering your growth, harming and hindering your ability to grow and evolve. We just want to really check our rigidity and check our victimhood this month, Aries, and know that there's like, that just might be one of the chains, the bindings that you bump up against. Like, oh, I didn't realize every time I told them they couldn't do it this way or they shouldn't do it this way, I was also saying the same thing to myself. And there's a bigger perspective available to me. I love you, Aries. Don't be mad at me. And then Taurus, shaman of discs and seahorse spirit, watch and wait. Shaman of discs naturally watches and waits. So the shaman of discs is the slowest king in the deck. Like he's the one that can grow into the environment. I like the shaman of discs a little bit better. He's just a little more settled. But so watch and wait plus the shaman of discs says like the Gemini season might move very quickly for you. You might be quick to judge. You might be quick to I don't know, to try to fit in. It's a funny thing to say, but try to fit in with the energy around you. And the seahorse watch and wait and the shaman of this are like pure Taurian energy. So the advice would actually be to get as slow as you want, to really sink into your own self-pleasure, to your body, to your environment, to beauty, to really like stay with you despite maybe a pretty strong wind asking you to step out of you. So what I'm getting is like, normally you would stay still. Something this month is going to come in that's going to try to seduce you away from yourself, seduce you into another kind of pacing. And I wouldn't recommend it. Like I would know that nothing meant for you will pass you by. You will not lose the thing. And you actually that might be kind of what's being healed in this relational dynamic. Like you're allowed to be you. You're allowed to move at your pace and be loved for that. You're allowed to find freedom the way you want to find freedom. You're allowed to define your values and to find freedom for yourself. And you will be loved for that. You will be respected and understood for that. Anything that's trying to rush you through that might not be for you this month. So just like notice that tension and give yourself permission to be loved for exactly who you are, not having to change pacing or shape to please anyone else. That might be the binding you rub up against this month, that storyline. All right, my friends, that was a long little deep dive into the 6 energies. I hope it gave you everything you needed. I hope it was nourishing and interesting and meditative and contemplative for you. And I hope the cards gave you some love. And I will send this out into the ethers with so much love and so much just wishing for us to all move a little closer to the ideal, a little closer to union that also feels free. That's my dream in terms of relating no matter who I'm relating with. And I hope that you can find like your value, your dream in that, and come a little more closely to embodying it and living it and experiencing it on your everyday. Happy June. Take good care, and I love you.